Hello there fellow acolytes of Sega Saturn, welcome to another Saturn Gems video. The series where we look at a bunch of different titles for the Sega Saturn, including cheap games, expensive games, import games, local games, hidden games and quite well known games. Hopefully we have something here for everyone. Let's get things kicked off with Guardian Heroes. Guardian Heroes is a beat 'em up game made by Treasure, and Treasure is probably well known for a lot of their shoot 'em up games and run and gun games. You may know them from things like Radiant Silvergun, Ikaruga, and obviously things like Gunstar Heroes and Dynamite Headdy for the Sega Mega Drive. Guardian Heroes is a side-scrolling beat 'em up in the veins of something like Golden Axe or Streets of Rage. You control a variety of different characters and you hack and slash your way through legions of soldiers, zombies, robots, goblins and all kinds of things. The main thing that separates this game from other games of the genre is that it has quite a lot of RPG mechanics. There's a level up system so you can get stronger as you go on and upgrade certain attributes. You have a variety of different moves to choose from, move combos for every separate character, and there are also branching paths. There's a lot of branching paths in the game. I think there's about 30 different levels and you can choose your way through it, so effectively you'll have a different experience each time. It does support multiplayer mode, so you can play up to 6 players I think. Obviously if you want to play 6 players you'll need the multi-tap adapter in order to do it, which I've not tried, but if you're lacking 6 players then you can just play 2 player. It has a lot of interesting characters and they all play rather differently, and the game is a lot of fun. It's not my favourite beat 'em up game. A lot of people say that Guardian Heroes is one of the best beat 'em ups of all time, which I disagree with, but I certainly think it's a damn fun game. It's very story heavy. The one thing that you want to bear in mind is the game is rather story heavy and obviously the branching paths link into that. And as such, getting the cheaper Japanese version might not be the best idea. If you're not interested in the story and just want to hack and slash your way through and not really pay attention to any of it, then feel free to get the Japanese version because it's a damn sight cheaper. But if you want to experience the story as well, you're definitely going to need the English version. The problem is that the English version is raising in price quite a lot, and you're probably going to be looking at maybe up towards £100, which is honestly quite steep, and I think it's definitely more than the game's worth, but it's still a cool little game. I mean, if you pick it up for the Saturn or whether you pick it up for like Xbox Live Arcade, it's still worthwhile experiencing the game. The next game on the list is Lemmings 3D. Now, Lemmings is a franchise that a lot of people should be aware of. The first game was immensely popular, and rightly so. It was a puzzle game where you had to guide a bunch of lemmings from the starting area where they drop into the level to their little house at the end. And Lemmings 3D is effectively the same, but as you probably guessed it, in a 3D environment. It plays surprisingly well. I mean, the game doesn't look the best. The 3D graphics are a little bit wonky, but I think they mainly look off because you're used to seeing the lemmings in 2D and the 3D lemmings just kinda look a bit weird. But don't let that put you off, it's still a really good and fun puzzle game. There's a lot of levels in the game. There are, I think maybe about 100? Yeah, seems about right. So there's plenty of levels to keep you going, and some of them are really difficult too. The controls are one of the things that kind of sets the game back a little bit. The game sort of uses a dual controller functionality thing, where basically in order to access certain controls, you need to press a button on your controller and it remaps the controller to do different things, effectively giving the Saturn controller more buttons available than it had previously, and it's very awkward. I had to remap the whole controls and I made like the less important stuff to be on the secondary scheme so that I never really had to use it. It was very rare that I had to switch over to use the extra buttons, and honestly it's just a matter of playing with the controls and finding what works for you. For me, I found that I got used to the controls and I could use them pretty well. but even then it's still kind of awkward, and something you can clearly see was designed for a mouse and keyboard. However, don't let it put you off, the game is very cheap, and it's still a fun game to have. If you like puzzle games, it's something that you may very well dig. The next game on my list is Christmas Nights into Dreams. I'm actually covering this one first rather than Nights into Dreams because I want to go into a little bit more detail on that one at a later date. But Christmas Nights into Dreams is effectively the demo disc that was made for Nights, and it's essentially a demo of the first level of the game, but it has all these extra features into it. For example, certain things will change depending on what holiday it is. It will change on Valentine's Day, April Fool's Day, it will change in winter at Christmas, and it's really neat. It also has a mechanic where at the end of the level you'll unlock a present, and these presents do different things. So you might get sound tests, or you might be able to play as a different character. One of the bonuses in particular is quite good, where you can play as Sonic, and it's very interesting. I mean, the game is obviously nowhere near as good playing as Sonic because you're designed to fly rather than go along the ground, but there's a very nice little bonus at the end of the Sonic campaign, which I'm not going to spoil because it's worth experiencing for yourself. As for the actual main game, you effectively control this character in a 2D environment. It's described as a 2D platformer of sorts, but it's not really. I mean, there's no real fixed genre to describe it. You go around these, effectively these circuits, and you accumulate a certain number of points. And when you accumulate a certain number of points and collect a certain number of gems, you can then proceed to the boss and continue through. You get a ranking at the end based on your performance, and unless you're really good, you'll probably get quite low rankings. It's a really cool arcade experience. It's quite a relaxing game and it's a lot of fun to play. It's one of those games that's easy to play through and get to the end, but quite difficult to master and get high ranks. But it's definitely worthwhile. I would say that the first level of the game, which is the one that's included in Christmas Nights, is actually the weakest level of the game, so it is a sort of shame that they put that as the demo level. But it's still a lot of fun to play and experience in the different holiday seasons, get all the unlockables and experience everything it has to offer. Christmas Nights is actually quite a cheap game to get a hold of, and it's definitely worthwhile. It is effectively just a demo for Nights into Dreams, but it offers enough different to stand out from the main game, and is definitely worth picking up if you're a Saturn owner. The next game on my list is Dead or Alive. Now, Dead or Alive is quite a popular fighting game, which unfortunately has its reputation a little bit tarnished at the moment because of the Dead or Alive Extreme games. A lot of people now see it as more of a pornographic game more than anything. And honestly, the developers didn't really help that, to be honest. I mean, even from the first game, the main thing that was innovative about the game was the jiggle mechanics. There are only like 2 females in the first game, but you have an option to control just how jiggly their breasts are. And the game just kind of went on from there really, and included a bit more titillation. And then you had the Extreme series, which went completely off the rails. But, you know, Dead or Alive is actually a really good fighter. If you can put those prejudices aside which you may have in your mind, which the series has gained at the present day, you'll find a really solid fighter behind it. It has some really cool mechanics. For example, outside the arena there is something called the danger zone, where if you knock an enemy into it, the background will explode and cause heavy damage, which is a nice little twist on the fighting game genre. The characters are also cool as well. There aren't many different characters to choose from, to be honest, and they don't have a massive variety, but the characters that are there are good and their moves are really cool and the fighting is really tight in it. I'm not a massive fighting game enthusiast, and I normally prefer weird fighting games like Vampire Savior, Mortal Kombat, things like that, but even though Dead or Alive is more of a serious kind of fighting game, it's still one that I actually quite enjoy, so it's definitely got something going for it. The good thing is as well, it's really cheap. You can probably pick it up for like 5-10 quid. And I would say if you're a fan of fighting games, it's definitely a worthwhile pickup. Now my final game is the favourite of the bunch, which is something that I do in every video of course. And that game is Mr. Bones. Mr. Bones is a very, very strange game. It starts out and you see this this evil dude, and he's summoned a bunch of different skeletons from the grave, and I think he wants to take over the world or something. But there's one skeleton, Mr. Bones, who's different, and he isn't mind controlled like all the other skeletons. The baddie and the other skeletons soon con onto this, and they want to hunt him down and stop him just in case he causes any problems, which then kicks off the game, where you have to try and escape from these skeletons. The game is kind of difficult to describe. The first level is effectively like a 2D platformer type thing. You're running through a graveyard away from skeletons, and you have to reach the end. But then the game kinda gets a bit weird. The second level is sort of similar, where you're having to avoid attacks by the enemy skeletons. And then the game sort of goes a bit weird. After those initial 2 levels, the levels start feeling very, very unique. They tend to have like a very different kind of style. You may have one level where you're in a 2D environment and you're doing a 2D platformer stuff, but then you'll have another level where you're doing guitar solos. There's another level where you're telling jokes. There's another level that's not 2D at all, and it's like a rail shooter where you're holding onto a dragon. And it's really cool. The game definitely has a lot of variety, and it's a lot of fun to experience. The FMVs are really well done as well. To say it's a mixture of real life and then this CGI skeleton, you'd assume that the CGI would be really, really cheesy and really crap, but it's surprisingly well done, to be honest. The music in the game is absolutely fantastic as well, and the gameplay is just really fun. It has a cool little mechanic where as you get hit, you lose parts of your skeleton, and this makes things a bit more difficult for you. Like, if you end up getting hit, maybe your leg falls off and then you have to hop through the level, or maybe your arms get, removed, or you're just left with just a bouncing head. And it makes the game pretty difficult, but it's also a cool little mechanic. There's actually a trio of levels which actually force you to start as a head, and you gradually rebuild as the levels progress, and it's really cool. The one thing that sets the game back though is that the game is difficult. This in itself isn't necessarily a problem. However, if you die, and you will die a lot, what you have to do is you have to go into the options menu, go into level select, and choose the level that you're currently at. It does save your progress, so you can choose the level you died on from the level select menu, but you have to go through a series of different options. You can't just continue or restart the level. That really becomes annoying fast. As I say, because of the difficulty. The Japanese version doesn't have this problem though. The Japanese version is a little bit easier, and you can restart too. And that definitely makes the Japanese version sort of superior. However, just bear in mind that there's one level where you have to tell jokes. The jokes are in Japanese, so this one will require probably a lot of trial and error to get through. However, if you think you can overcome that one level, and obviously you won't be able to experience that level properly because it's in Japanese, if you can get over that, then I think the Japanese version is probably the version to get. If not, then the English version is definitely a great version to have. It's definitely a lot more expensive, but it's still a really good game and definitely worthwhile picking up for your collection. So those were the 5 games that we covered this time. We had Guardian Heroes, Lemmings 3D, Christmas Nights into Dreams, Dead or Alive, and Mr. Bones. I would say that Mr. Bones and Christmas Nights into Dreams are definitely worth picking up because they're so good. I would definitely recommend picking up Dead or Alive as well because it's a good fighting game and it's very cheap. Lemmings 3D, if you like puzzle games, I would say is definitely worth picking up because again it is a budget title. And Guardian Heroes is a damn good beat 'em up, and is definitely worth picking up either the Japanese or the English version if you're a fan of beat 'em ups. Well, what do you think of those games? Have you ever played them before? If so, let me know what you think in the comments below. Again, if you've got any suggestions for future episodes, drop a comment and I'll take them into consideration for future videos. Okay, thanks all for watching. Bye.